I would focus more on what I call high relevancy keywords. So if I have like a women's insulated metal water bottle, if I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand, depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus that I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. I think it gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates is going to be low, high cost per clicks. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords. Also make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored product, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding from there. And hello, welcome back to another Ask Junglr Live. I had a couple hiccups. It looks like we're not live on LinkedIn, unfortunately, although we are streaming live on all other platforms, social media platforms. So super excited for this one. Again, I'm back here for another week of answering your Amazon ad questions. As you can see, format of this is going to be type your Amazon ad questions into the chat. We'll bring them up and I will get you answers. We are done with Prime Day. Prime Day was, let's see, the 16th and the 17th. So that was this Tuesday and Wednesday. Today is Thursday, day after Prime Day. Results are still rolling in, but it was a great day for us, actually. Some really interesting stats being put out. A lot of like 2x and above on, I think pretty much all of our brands. We saw a minimum of 2x, and then a lot of those a lot bigger than that. So really good news there. The other even better news is that those sales increase stats, while our spend did increase, obviously, it didn't increase at the same rate as the sales increases, which means it was also a really profitable day in terms of ads for a lot of our brands. And we actually have a playbook. It's a little bit late. Obviously, Prime Day is already gone. We do have a playbook on how we actually run ads during Prime Day. We have like a before, during, and after. So we're definitely set in the after, which means we are watching accounts really closely. We're watching those sales. We are making adjustments to the budgets and bids to make sure that we're not overspending post Prime Day, specifically on sponsored products. You definitely keep up retargeting and other things on sponsored display, or if you're running DSP ads, you want to make sure that those are also running to help capitalize on a lot of the retargeting. So a lot of people visited your listings during Prime Day. You want to make sure that you are capitalizing on that. So with that being said, we do have a couple of questions from Joseph. Also some really cool, I have a lot of webinars and things coming up, so might pop open some of those, some exciting stuff, but we'll get right into your questions, which again, feel free to ask an Amazon ad question in the chat. I'll pull it up and we will get started. Joseph already has a 2-part question in here, which is awesome. Joseph always coming in with the heat. If I retarget my own products as product targeting by adding 100 ASINs as ads into the same and 100 as the targets, should I make sure to only group ASINs that are similar? I can assume Amazon algorithm would know which products are mine to show for the relevant pages. That's a really good question, Joseph. And so it would come down to, one, how much volume you think you're going to be able to drive for these things, and then 2, what do you have the time ability to be able to set up? I will say, if you're able to go through it and group like targets, you are going to see a little bit better results, but it's kind of good to know here, is the juice worth the squeeze, in terms of that's going to be like, it sounds like you have 100 ASINs and maybe even more than that. It can take a long time to make those connections, right? There's maybe potential if you upload, the business report or like titles into ChatGPT, maybe you can get it to do something. To be honest, there's been kind of a hit or miss for us on trying to use language models to like figure out how to group products. That might be kind of, if you have a couple minutes to play with it, sometimes it's just a fun exercise. Those are the kind of fun exercises I do on the weekends. But I would say if you have the ability to group them, yes. The other tip I would give you here, which is not actually a question that you asked, but I would make sure that you have exact match targeting turned on. I wouldn't do expanded targeting here, because expanded targeting will target potentially other competitor ASINs and things that may or may not make sense. And this is obviously like a branded campaign, so you want to keep it as such. So I would say if you have the ability to do so, it will be helpful to go and out of your way to sort of group things. Or if you wanted sort of like the like a halfway point in between, maybe not doing the entire catalog, but just maybe doing some of it, you could go through and say like, hey, what are my best sellers? What are the ones that I know I want to put the most ad budgets behind? And then just be much more intentional with those. And then everything else, you can like just group them together. But if you just want to like a quick, get it up there, sort of what's called defensive targeting, where basically you take your own ASINs and you're targeting other products in your catalog, then exactly how you said, like, hey, I'm going to take all my products, I'm going to put these in the advertising, and I'm going to take all those ASINs, and those are the ones that I'm going to advertise on, and then just let Amazon do its thing. That is the quickest way to get it up. And another option here would be if you set that up and then you notice some things were underperforming, and then you just adjusted or paused the things that were underperforming, would be another option there. I would say just it depends on the data availability and how much time, effort you're able to put into it. Just to say, retargeting my ASINs, 100 in one ad group, random ASINs that I had one thing in common. They all had PD running. It was very successful. I think that shows Amazon knows what product. Yes, their algorithms are getting much better. I will say that. And we have noticed, like with the updates and the expanded ASIN targeting, there's other things where they're doing some targeting within the brand stores of like, you know, things that are related to my brand and sponsored brand ads, which those honestly haven't performed well for us at all. But you have, or we have seen sort of this shift from Amazon as trying to take more control over their targeting, or us to give up control to Amazon as far as like figuring out what they're targeting. If you're really, really good at running Amazon ads, what you often find is that what you decide to target is going to be more intentional and get better results than what Amazon determines to target. But if you don't know what you're doing, then Amazon is going to do much better targeting for you. And so it just depends. I would test it, but it's good to hear that some data points and then you're getting good results. Just fin with more questions. What type of shopper retargeting should I set up now post Prime Day? I guess it's sponsored display retargeting. Any tips on the app? Yeah, I would do sponsored display retargeting. We found a lot of value in doing optimized for page visits is a type that we use. And then I would say, think about your products in like, are they repeat purchase products, or is it something that you want to like snag shoppers on? Because what will help you here is like the look back window. So if it's a repeat purchase product, you might say like, oh, I had a lot of purchases on Prime Day, and I know people typically come back and purchase my product within like, maybe there's a year window, maybe the product runs out, maybe it's a replenishable, so they need it within the next 3 months. And I would like adjust the targeting there. And then the other thing that I would do is so that the purchasers retargeting inside of the page views retargeting. Again, you just want to be more intentional with the windows. So you could say like, oh, somebody who's done it in the last 7 days, right? I want them to immediately come back, or most likely for Prime Day, you're going them to sort of immediately come back to the list. So that is how we would set up that. But yeah, no, I appreciate everybody joining in. Joseph, always in with the hard-hitting questions. Love the content that you're allowing me to put out here. So thank you for that. Anyone has, if you're listening in and you have any Prime Day results, would love to hear those. Feel free to drop those in the chat. Again, we just closed the window on Prime Day. What is it? Technically like late last night. So data points are still rolling in. All things look good for us. The one thing that's very interesting in terms of, it comes down to a little bit of how we manage ads, but it also is kind of like how Amazon, like just the high traffic days have been steering as well, is we notice a much larger increase on the amount of clicks that were happening versus the increases to the cost per clicks. And I think that's a function of us being really, really good at our bid management and not over increasing our bids. And that's sort of been like a typical trend in the industry as well, as for like not crazy increases on bids, but also, you know, just being more intentional with what we're doing and on increasing bids across the board. And so what we find is that the increase in the ad spend typically comes from an increase in the traffic, which is the amount of clicks happening. And if you can be really intentional with where you're going to get those traffic increases by good campaign budget optimizations, that's where we're seeing really great results, over 2x, I think, on most of our brands, if not all of our brands. And then the ad spend increases where they were not as significant as the total sales increases, which is what we want to see. And so we can go through. It looks like we got other questions in the chat. I have a question. I'm good at creating optimization. If ads, I want to start my career as an ad management. I want to learn more about ads. Where can I learn more? I want to get hired by an agency and provide services. Where can I find agencies who are looking for ad management? Good question. I would say, so if it is that you're just looking to get a position, I know my Amazon guy is like always hiring. So that might be a good thing to look into. I would just look in job postings. You can also look on LinkedIn. A lot of people will post on LinkedIn about jobs. Indeed is another one that a lot of people will post for jobs. And I would just look into the job market. I did have so it sounds like you're not a beginner because you said you're good at creating and optimizing ads. So it sounds like you're not a beginner. If you are a beginner and you're looking to start out, I still recommend Amazon's training inside of their ad console. They have, the pretty good, basic program on ads. If you're just starting out and you're trying to figure it out, bonus tip, it's also free and it's pretty much curated for you. The problem with watching YouTube videos is sometimes it kind of feel like you're getting a whole bunch of information. It's from completely different perspectives. You will learn a lot by taking Amazon's ad certifications. So I would start there, get your ad certifications. Now, anyone, myself included, who has been in this industry for any length of time knows that just because you have a certification does not mean you're actually good. And so if you can get any proof of concept of what you've done, that's going to be really helpful for jobs. And you also want to understand what it is that the company is looking for and who you fit best with. If you have options, sometimes you just need to take an internship and do it that way. But I would say I would look at job postings. And in terms of up-leveling your skills, besides just being really, really good at Amazon advertising, the thing that is most desirable in this industry is two things. One, understanding data analytics. If you have something that worked for you, I want you to be able to tell me why. Why did it work? What's going on? You need to be able to explain. So you need to be able to understand and be able to explain it to somebody else. And that's the second thing that is most important, is up-leveling your communication is key. You want to have good written and good verbal communications, because you on some level are going to have to interact with the team. You're going to have to interact with your team leads. You're going to have to interact with probably the brands, or you might have to write emails, or that actually, if you're talking about trying to get in as an ad manager, people who have good communication skills will always be in high demand. So that is a more unconventional skill that is going to take you really far and get you a lot better. You're going to be way more sticky to the agency. Because if I have two people who have the same level of skill in terms of ad management, if one of them is an excellent communicator, is able to take on client things, is a go-getter, and I can be comfortable with handing off more high-level client communications things, I'm going to value that ad manager way more. So it's kind of an out-of-the-box skill that I would recommend. And how you get better on it is just practice. Practice, talk to a lot of people, have a lot of conversations. Joseph with another one. I saw on LinkedIn discussion whether Prime Day is a net gain for sellers given the slowdown prior to the event. What is your take? I tend to agree, Joseph. I tend to agree. What Joseph is talking about is basically, so Prime Day is awesome, right? We have, I just talked about, over doubling of sales, even more in a lot of our brands, some crazy numbers, way profitable. The days leading up to Prime Day and the days after Prime Day always have a really slow sales lag. And going into the week, kind of over that weekend, sales take a slump. And so the question is, is Amazon just taking those sales that they had from the other days and sort of lumping them in on a single day so everybody gets to see the spike on the graph? But really, when you go, when you extrapolate out, it's pretty much just an average day. That's kind of the thought process here. I would say for certain brands, that's not wrong. It really depends. And so I think, I'm saying I think because like we're still comparing the data, but for a lot of our brands, they are a bit net positive on some things. But the other thing that you need to figure out is what is actually the profitability. So if you ran like a bunch of deals and you like the profits were lower because your like you had more deals, less profits, less money in your pocket, does that loss of profits, even though there's an elevated sales, does that necessarily translate to being better for the brand and or not? And what I would say to that is I'm leaning more on it just kind of being a net even for brands to slightly positive, but that really depends on what kind of deals that you're running. And sometimes those deals can be pretty steep, so it can cut into margins a bit. Here's a question Mohammed was asking about. So this is on getting jobs. It's compulsory to learn bulk sheets for creation and optimization of ads, or agencies also hire manual ads creation and optimizations. Established agencies will have their own tool stack. And so oftentimes they'll use specific tools to optimize ads. Now we at our agency use bulk files a lot. I will say that. And bulk files will allow you to come up with creative solutions that when the tools fail or when there's something, sometimes it's actually easier to use bulk files if you have the skill and know what you're doing. So I would say you learning how to use bulk files for ad optimization or creation or even analysis is going to be a valuable skill to have. So if you're able to learn it, I don't see any reason why it would hurt you. It's only going to help you. Now, is that agency going to require it? Depends on the agency. Some agencies use all tools. We're kind of like a hybrid between manual and tools. So we use tools when it is beneficial to the brands and helpful to our account managers, mainly in the realm of analytics, because managing analytics, all of the moving pieces inside of Amazon ads is tedious. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of things to take into account: inventory, return rates, profits, all those kind of things. If you don't have a tool that's able to quickly calculate that for you and you to be able to make some quick adjustments, it's going to take you a really long time. And so we leverage tools for a lot of those things, but there are still certain systems where bulk files honestly have an edge. As much as I'm in this industry and there's tools popping up every single day, and there's some amazing tools and we use some great tools, but to be honest, no tool is perfect. You're always going to find cracks. There's always something it doesn't do that you wish it did. There's always something that it does that you don't care about. Every single tool has that. And so it's nice to have something you can fill the gap with. And for Amazon ads, that can be bulk files. So, yeah, by the way, we have a ton of things on bulk files in our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would recommend going and checking that out inside of our playlist. If anyone's wanting to figure out how in the world to use bulk files and what bulk files look like, you would want to go here. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can go down to the playlist and you'll see this bulk files. There's bulk files 2.0. I would use that one. So bulk files 2.0 is going to get you pretty far. That's how I really got into a lot of the nitty gritty in the Amazon ads. And it was pretty awesome. So, all right. Looks like we're rolling here about 20 minutes in. I'll stay here for a bit. So again, ask your Amazon ad questions in the chat. If you're liking what you hear, feel free to give us a thumbs up on any of the streaming platforms. Lots of great questions rolling in. We can talk about, again, we're still on the kick of Prime Day. I'm actually trying to see if I can last minute pull some data. There's a lot of data pull across all of our brands to see if I can give you like a recap and see if we can answer Joseph's question on is Amazon Prime Day a net even for brands? Did anyone gain out? Are they, is it kind of all the sales got taken and moved to another day of the week? That's a possibility. Really, you would want to, what I would recommend doing for that is you would want to go back and like analyze that week, like, the whole entire week in Prime Day. And then you would analyze the week prior or another week that didn't have any volatility in terms of the like shopper behavior on it. So like a normal week, and then just compare the two and be like, hey, are my numbers on average better or worse? What does that look like? And again, that's going to highly depend on your brand and how much your deals cut into your profits. Cool. Well, at about 20 minutes in, I'm going to give us another probably 5 to 10 minutes or so just to see if anyone can roll in. It depends on the volume of questions. So if we got a lot more questions rolling in, then I'll make sure I stick around to give you guys the answers. If not, then most likely we will end the stream a little bit early. Things coming up for me, I'm super excited about. I got a lot of, actually that would be a good thing to ask if anyone's listening in. What kind of topics do you guys find most valuable when it comes to webinars? I'm working on, I think I've got about, what is it? Is it 4 or 5 webinars in the pipeline right now that I'm working on to get out? One of them that I'm super stoked about is going to be on ranking and how to leverage ranking. And there's some really cool things coming out from Brian Johnson, a lot of really big data analytics and the factors of ranking and different ranking factors and how they actually differ in different categories. And so I'm actually planning on partnering with him for like a really intriguing webinar. Look for that coming the end of August is when we're going to be able to put that out. But some really, really cool stuff coming out there. Hoping to give back to the community. So if you guys have any questions, looks like Mohammed was asking, what do you think about Amazon India? It's another retail channel. Now, there's some really interesting nuances to India in the terms of like returns. So you really want to be careful and look at profits like after returns and things like that in India. But other than that, it's simply another platform, another channel. And every single Amazon retail channel, be it, like US, UK, Canada, Mexico, we're advertising in Australia, UK, all across the EU, all of those things. They're all going to have their quirks because every culture is different. How people shop is going to be different. The language that they use, the products that they're interested in, how you want to build out that listing for that specific market to appeal to that specific buyer, all of those things. So it's going to be like any of those platforms, right? You really want to understand the nuances of that specific platform, their shopper intent, how they search. But other than that, it's obviously not one of the biggest platforms, but it is a good platform. Again, if you know it and understand how to manage it. Cool. And with that, we are close to the 30-minute mark. So I think I'm going to close out the stream today. But as always, Joseph, awesome questions on the product targeting. Love it. Mohammed, I hope that you're able to find an agency that you jive with pretty soon and keep on up leveling your skills. So with that, I appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys, for joining into the stream. And we'll see you next time, same place. And talk soon. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, If you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.